Welcome in, guys. Prep Extra Podcast. I'm Chris Basnett. New co-host today. Nate Thomas is joining us. Our friend Colton Stone is out. He and his lovely wife Sylvia just had a baby girl, Stella. So congratulations to Colton and the family. He's going to be out for a few weeks. Nate's going to be filling in. Nate covers high school girls basketball for us. You know, we've talked a lot this year about how the boys teams in the city have beat up on each other, Nate, and it's been pretty much the same thing on the girls' side. It's been really deep. There's a lot of quality competition, and you've seen teams beating up on each other for the most part. I guess, what have you seen just from watching the teams in the city?
Yeah, I guess for the most part, that's what it's been so far. It seems like most teams have kind of hovered right around the expectations that a lot of them had to start the season, notably Lincoln High being right in the mix for a state championship come March here in a few weeks. But otherwise, the main one that steps out to me too is Lincoln North Star. 5 underclassmen that they're starting on the team, 7-5 so far this year. They're starting to play some really good basketball along with some other teams in the city.
That's a team that starts, like you said, all the 5 of their starters are freshmen and sophomores, and it's been a rebuild over there. They had a rough year last year. I believe they finished around 28th or so in the power points. They're up to 10th this year, and they're doing it, like we said, in a city where it's deep and it's tough. And so, yeah, they've been very impressive. You mentioned Lincoln High. We knew they were going to be pretty good. They've pretty well lived up to it other than that early stumble against Bellevue East. When you look at teams like Lincoln High, like Pius, probably the two most prominent state title contenders, I would say, in the city. What do you kind of see out of those two teams?
Yeah, as Lincoln High, obviously, with Dominique Kelly, they're going to bring that full court press at you the entire game, all 32 minutes, all 94 feet. And that's what they've done for most of the season so far. They're trying to figure out some things offensively. Some people step up here and there. Bree Robinson, Jalen Brill have been their two standouts so far this season. But then if you look at Pius, it's a little bit different. The defense has been really good for them so far this year. It's a little bit different of a makeup. They don't have a dominant post player like they did with Alexis Markowski.
Yeah.
But her younger assistant, Addison, is playing really well right now. Their leading scorer. They're starting to shoot the 3 ball a little bit better. That's been their one struggle so far this season. If they can shoot consistently well, they'll be right in the mix there.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch those two teams, kind of on those separate tracks, but you see where it can be a collision course come late February, early March. And then you look elsewhere. Lincoln East has had some good moments this year. They've started to play better. Lincoln Northeast battling some injuries. I did the preseason rankings, and you could have ranked probably 6 of the 7 teams. I think all six of those 7 teams have spent time in the rankings this year. What have you seen out of Lincoln East, first of all, and then Northeast kind of battling those injuries recently?
Yeah, I mean, obviously when the two played last week, it was kind of a hodgepodge for the Rockets to try and get a lineup together. But Northeast is, like you mentioned, the 2 injuries, Yolania Bradley and Jaden Webb, they're 2 starting guards, 2 best 3-point shooters. It's really hard for them to space the floor right now and get any sort of offense rolling. Yeah. And when you look at Lincoln East, Alex McCleary, first season, they had a really tough schedule to start the year, but they're finally starting to get a system together, focused a lot on defense and playing fast. He said a lot of their team is finally starting to trust themselves in that process, trust each other, and they're making some big strides, and they're probably going to be right in the mix there in a district title berth here in the next few weeks.
That's a team that, like you said, took some lumps early. I know Lincoln High thumped them pretty good early in the year. Northeast got them pretty good early in the year, and then they come back and beat Northeast. And even though Lincoln East is hobbled, like you said, that's still a really good win for a team, like you said, that's kind of finding their way. I guess when you're looking at the city as a whole, is there a theme, a common thread you've seen between the teams, or is there anything that's kind of stood out when you just look at the teams as a whole?
I would say it feels like there's a lot of really good post players in the city right now.
Same as the boys, yeah.
Yeah, mentioned Jalen Brill from Lincoln High. She's playing really well. Nylock Dak from Lincoln Southeast has been a really good player this year. The Knights have also exceeded some expectations. Yeah. Could be a sneaky team here the last few weeks of the season. Brindley Christensen is one of the 2 seniors on Lincoln Southwest that, they just seem to find a way right now.
Yeah.
With a lot of underclassmen on their team. They have just 2 seniors, Lincoln Southwest.
It's crazy.
They're right in the mix of making a run here.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably like the biggest thing for me. Obviously, the defense has been really good throughout the city as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens over the last few weeks. I think Hack was a really good indicator of how good some of the teams were, but a lot of teams are making strides since then too.
You mentioned Southwest, and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about them. A team that made the state title game last year had the tough injury news before the season even started with Kennedy Williams being out. Is there any chance they can get her back here late in the year as they kind of make a district push, or are they going to have to kind of press on without her?
Yeah, it seems like there's probably not a chance that she'd come back. Tim Barretta said that they'd be pretty lucky, I think, if they had her. I don't think she's practicing at all right now.
Yeah.
Finally out of a walking boot finally walking, I guess you
Yeah.
should say.
Out of the brace, yeah.
Participating in practice, but not practicing just there. But Southwest they're finding a way.
They're
and
tough.
Nia Seymour's been really good too. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're a sub 500 team that somehow makes it in the state tournament.
Wouldn't surprise anybody, I don't think. And they were a team that kind of had that Cinderella run last year. They didn't go to state maybe as really like a highly regarded team. All of a sudden they're in the state championship game, and they're pushing that game late into the second half. So that's a good look at the city from the girls' side. Like we said, it's real similar to the boys. It's been really good post play. It's been really good defense for the most part, and it's been teams taking turns beating each other. Basically, is what it comes down to. And we saw more of that on the boys' side this week. We saw it Saturday night. North Star goes into Northeast, falls behind by 16 in the first half, wins the game on Brendan Clemens' buzzer beater from half court. Super fun game on the north side. North Star's been playing a lot better. Lincoln Pius has been playing a lot better. Won 8 out of 10. Their only 2 losses to Lincoln Southeast. And they beat Southwest the other night after Southwest just beat North Star. It's just so – it's been so fun to watch the city this year, both boys and girls, because it's yes, the teams are evenly matched on both sides, but it's because they're good. It's not like you've got 7 bad teams or 7 so-so teams. You've got 7 teams that are in Class A, I should say, that are good to pretty good, all the way from top to bottom. And it's hard to rank them every week, but Lincoln High's boys, like the girls, won the hack, have taken some lumps since then. The city schedule's kind of getting to them, but that's a team that's going to make a run, I think, late. Lincoln East has kind of risen to the top after that upset loss in the hack to Lincoln Pius the 10th during their hot streak. So it's just been so much fun. It's going to continue to be fun this next month. A month from now, we're looking at sub-district, district finals. And the big question is going to be, who's hosting in the city? Do the girls get 2 or 3 hosts or 4 hosts? Do the boys get a couple, 3 hosts? Do they wrestle a couple of those away from the metro? So it's a lot of fun. It's more of the same every week. It seems like we kind of beat the same drum every week, but that's what it is. It's just been really good basketball in the city. And speaking of good basketball, conference tournament week is in full swing starting tonight. We had a few games on Saturday, kind of those entry bracket games, but I mean it's everybody in the area outside of the hack. It's the Central Conference. It's the Trailblazer. It's the Nebraska Capital Conference. It's everybody. I guess, and I don't know how much you've looked at the brackets. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but what are you kind of looking for when you look at some of these brackets here over the next week or so?
I would say if there's one tournament that I think is going to be really good inside of this area, it's the Trailblazer.
Yeah.
Wahoo has been really good so far this season in Seed 1. Beatrice is, it seems like they're just hanging around. They'll find their way at some point up to the top of Class B, to the Elkhorn North and Omaha Scout ranks. And then Malcolm's really good too. Hallie Dolliver's made all the difference for a team that really needed some toughness and some defense.
Mm-hmm.
Alyssa Fordick is starting to play some really good basketball. That's a tournament that's going to be, any 3 of those could come out winners out of the Trailblazer. And then I guess also you can't go away with talking about EMC.
Yeah.
Norris, obviously the 2 seed. Elkhorn North, the overwhelming favorite.
Yeah.
But those will be the first time that Elkhorn North sees some of those teams, and maybe one of them can really put on a challenge against them.
Yeah, you mentioned the Trailblazer, and that was what I was going to mention too, because it's kind of the same. It's the Wahoo boys who have played so well since their only loss. Malcolm could potentially play them in a semifinal. Malcolm's had a really good year with Hayden Frank kind of leading the way. It's funny how similar a lot of these teams are. Beatrice, 3 seed in there on the boys' side. They've kind of struggled a little bit the last couple weeks. Of course, you got Platteview in there with Connor Milliken, who might break the state scoring record by the end of the year. So that's going to be a fun one. Centennial Conference is always fun. Lincoln Christian's girls, the 2 seed there. that's always a bear of a conference tournament. The competition is just so quality there. You look at the boys' side, and Lincoln Lutheran boys are the 4 seed, and that's a team that's knocking on the door of the top 10, in C1. So it's very similar to what you see on the girls' side, and even going back to the EMC, on the boys' side, you look at Waverly, the 2 seed there. They could be playing Elkhorn North in the semifinals if Elkhorn North can get past Norris in the round before, and Bennington's the top seed there. So it's a fun time of year. It's a busy time of year. We're going to go out and cover as many games as we can for you. Make sure you're tuning in to journalstar.com, Prep Extra page. We're going to have all the coverage for you. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.